The title to this is Practicing the Next Society. Um, what do we mean? What do I mean? What do we mean by the next society? I think that most of us have a sense that something big is changing. Our challenges are getting to a point where something has to change. And the thing that the thing we can see the storm clouds on the horizon, but we don't necessarily know if it's rain, if it's snow, if it's fog, if it's frogs. We don't have a sense of what's going to change. And most of us act like what's going to change is um, uh, we're going to get a better caterpillar. We're going to have the exact same society we've got right now, but all the problems will just go away. So everything will be better because we won't have any more pollution or bad manners or anything like that. Um, and most of our challenges are around our failure to imagine big enough, our failure to open ourselves to the possibilities of being big enough. And our challenge is how do we make um, our lives come in concert with the things that are facing us. I've got some ideas about that. I've been working on these ideas for about 30, 40 years or so. But before I do that, I want to tell you a story that I heard recently. Well, not all that recently. I'm getting of the age where everything happened 10 years ago. Things that happened 40 years ago just happened 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, um, this is a story that was told to me about a inner city young man who was overweight, out of shape. He's like an early teenager. And all the kids at school were picking on him, were teasing him because he was overweight. And he went to a uh, karate master and said he wants to learn karate because he was going to kick butt, fight the kids that were picking on him. And the karate master said, you can learn karate if you want to, but that's not the attitude to be doing it. And the kid says, "Well, I'm just going to get a gun. I'm going to, if they pick on me, I'm going to shoot them." And the karate master said, "I'll teach you karate. I'll teach you how to kick their butt. But before you do that, you've got to show that you're serious. And what I want you to do is every time you feel picked on, every time you feel that they're putting you down, I want you to do 10 push-ups." What are you talking about? So, well, that's my fee. If you want to learn this, every time you feel somebody's picking on you, do 10 push-ups. And at first, this was really, really hard. He says, if you have to do it in 2 or 3 installments, you do it, but you have to do 10 push-ups every time you feel somebody's picking on you. So every day he is doing push-ups because he's being picked on a lot. And after a few weeks, he can get through his 10 push-ups. After a few more weeks, he's doing this relatively easily. And after a couple of months, he's lost weight and kids aren't picking on him anymore. And so at that point, he can become a serious student and not, um, I want to hurt somebody. So What I want us to be able to do is be serious about the changes that are coming up for us, to be serious about what it will take. And although these are going to be upheavals, our world is in the process right now of upheavals. These upheavals don't have to be catastrophic. These upheavals don't have to be even negative to us. I'll say a little bit more about what I mean by that in a minute. Um, so our challenge is, how do we get um, uh, uh, how do we get rid of our fat? Okay, how do we get to a point where we can where we can ride with the changes? Uh, I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. There's some things that can come to a very quick and a very catastrophic end. The way we have done our food supply, just as one example, is we've painted ourselves into a corner where we have to use more and more pesticides, more and more artificial fertilizers, more and more toxic chemicals to produce each acre of food. Well, that's going to collapse. Well, it should collapse. We shouldn't be treating ourselves, our bodies, our food, each other. We shouldn't be doing um, commercial, toxic, industrial food. Now, for most of us, like Jenna putting the exclamation points in the chat box, that's going to be a good thing. For a lot of us, we if we can't get our Cheetos, we think that the world is going to come to an end. I was just reading somewhere about people. Um, I eat a lot of peanuts at night when I'm doing my work, and I've got mounds of peanut shells here, and I'm trying to get them out to people who actually have gardens that they can put the peanut shells in. But I came across somebody asking a question on Google. Um, um, is it okay to give peanuts to squirrels? I said, yeah, they know what to do with them. They know how to open them. They distribute the shells in an organic way. And somebody else asked the question, well, can you give Cheerios, the cereal, to squirrels? And they said, yes, if you want to poison them. They said that the Cheerios contain zero nutrition, so the squirrels will get really, really fat. They'd fill up on the Cheerios, but that's basically filling up with styrofoam because there's no nutrition in there. And if you wouldn't give it to a squirrel, why would you give it to your children? And so our challenge is, can we despite ourselves, change to a system that that represents our love for ourselves, our love for each other, and our love for the earth, our love for the divine in all of that. Um, the answer is yes. Some of us will see that change as the end of the world. Okay. Um, they will not know how to handle themselves without 500 stations of television. I can say you can handle yourself really well that way. I don't have that. Um, but when are you going to start practicing not watching television? Okay. Um, for those of us who don't have any, who don't have a streaming service, who just don't do that, for those of us who don't do it, that is not a real giving up. Okay. But for those of us who are addicted to it, and I use that word very advisably, it's an addiction. For those of us who are addicted to it, you have to practice letting it go. If not, when it disappears, you're going to be in really, really bad shape. Um, Going into cold turkey withdrawal, and you won't even know that you were addicted. Not a pretty thing. So we are going to start the process of practicing the next society, practicing with each other and practicing together. So on the 14th of June, we're going to kick off this practice, or I should say these practices. Um, I want to before I walk through the 14th with you, I want to say we are doing something that few have ever done consciously, and that's create a new society. We are doing something that no one has done the way we are doing it. And that is a society that works for all human beings, where we start acting like one species and all living beings, where we start acting like we are an integral part of a living planet. I most of us, even the ones that say, yes, I believe in that, haven't worked out what that actually means. Haven't worked out what it means when you stop thinking that there are people who are subservient to you. You work out that you are not subservient to anybody else. And you work out that all living beings have these two aspects, volition and permission. And if I go into that right now, we'll be here for another hour. But everyone's got a right to life, got a right to their own inherent liberty. They have their own right to being not subjugated and oppressed. And I was thinking about um, a African American woman, and I can't. I know her name, but I don't. And she's famous, but I don't remember it right now. It's not important. And she was talking about the ecological movement and the respect for all beings, which he did not have. And she said at one point in time in her talk, the only right a chicken has is to die, cut itself up, and get into my frying pan. And she objected when other human beings treated her that way, but she couldn't see that she's treating other beings that way. We think about rights when they apply to us and people we like, and we don't think about that when it applies to absolutely everybody else on the planet. And so our challenge is, how do we practice this? Not talk about it, not read it in the book. Once you actually are with other human beings and other living beings, including your food, you'll start to see this a different way. We have this amazing window right now. This window won't last another 2 or 3 years. So it might not last until the end of my talk. So we've got this window right now where we can work on this together, when we can talk about it and we can actually practice together. So practice what? So let me say this for everybody on the call. Let me say this for everybody who's going to be getting this through a recording. And let me say this for everybody else on the planet. Um, we have to practice together. And by together, I don't mean Zoom. Obviously, I love Zoom. And obviously, Zoom loves me. But we have to be face to face with each other. We have to feel each other's energy. We have to see what a tree actually looks like, feels like, smells like, etc., as opposed to seeing a picture of one or seeing an AI representation of one and saying, "Ooh, that's a pretty tree." So we have to get um, connected to each other and connected to our source. And that's what this is all about. So on the 14th, we're going to be doing this live in Portland. We'll be doing this live in other areas. And for everybody who's on this call right now, that's not in Portland, um, you should think about getting together with your friends and watching the video feed, the Zoom feed of what we will be doing in Portland, and then do that in your location. This even the morning. This is a Saturday morning, and that morning is going to be occupied with a number of activities, and you should be doing those activities in your location. Um, so let's talk about what the activities are. Um, we will be doing four practices. First one is the practice of awareness, of awakening, of actually paying attention to what's going on. How are we actually conscious together? And what is this thing that we talk about here in our catalyst meditation of holonic consciousness? And how's that going to change our lives? How do we actually create a mindful society? How do we create a society of people who are actually being thoughtful and mindful? How do we practice wisdom? What is wisdom? Um, we spend an awful lot of time and trillions of dollars on technology as though technology is going to create the society that we want, and it doesn't. It takes us further away from that society. How do we practice wisdom, which is being smart about relationships as opposed to being smart about things? The next thing we're going to do is um, look at the practice of surviving. And I don't mean this in a really in a downer way. A lot of folks that the folks that call themselves preppers um, are looking at surviving, meaning, buying tons of dried food and getting tons of bullets so that you can protect your dried food. And that ain't what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm calling surviving. What we can do is dance through these upheavals. If we can see them coming, we can start looking at who we need to reach out to right now and say, how do we go through this together? How do we address our changes together? How do we surf through these waves of change. The third practice is the practice of vision. How do we see the world beyond the status quo? Um, Henry Ford said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Well, he did something else, okay? And we've got to think about um, the world beyond this techno mess that we have created for ourselves, this political, economic, cultural, and spiritual mess that we've created. How do we create something else? How do we adopt what I'm calling the vision of the whole, all of us together, all of us human? I keep saying it, but I'm trying to drill it into our heads here. All of us human beings all around the planet together, all 8 billion of us, and the trillions and trillions and trillions of beings that make up our family. How do we practice a whole new way of governing ourselves? Because the old system doesn't work. I mean, we know that all the things we put in place to govern ourselves and govern each other, they don't work. How do we create an economics of abundant enoughness? And then we'll be talking, whoops, I thought I had one more slide here. Well, we do have one more topic here, and that is how do we practice inclusivity? When we talk about all of us, all human beings and all living beings, there's a philosophy behind that of why we would do that. And that's the philosophy of inclusivity. As you know, I've got a few books on that. So we will be looking at how do we come together to make something like that happen. Um, so the 14th of June will be a kickoff point for us. What I'm going to want us to do, what I will encourage us to do, is go through each one of those points slower over the course of the next weeks and months and years and decades, to connect with how do we create this other society, and then create it, and then live in it, and have something that gets us really jazzed about being together and living together, and having something that we can give to our children, our grandchildren, and in my case, my great grandson, to say, this is the vision I want us to live. This is the thing that I want us to be doing. This is how we are doing our work. Okay, and hello everyone, and welcome to our Catalyst meditation uh, for our last Thursday in May. Um, and we're going to do this the way that we have always we've been doing it, welcoming those who are on this call right now, and also welcoming those who aren't on necessarily on the call, but they're on the outline that most of you have. And welcome to those who have been with us in the past but can't make it to join us today. Hopefully your energy is still here. We're going to start with our centering exercise. And our centering exercise is done with a breathing app. And I'm going to start that in a second. It'll be about 3 minutes of the breathing app, and then another couple of minutes of us just silent centering, and then we'll come back. So let's start our breathing. And if we can, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in. And we can continue our silent centering. And if we can come back to our mutual center, we'll continue with setting our intentions. As the imaginal cells within the chrysalis come together to form the butterfly out of the disintegrated caterpillar cells, we come together to form a gateway for the meta-consciousness of the mind of our Mother Earth. We act for ourselves personally and as aspects of Gaia, of Mother Earth. Holonic consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe. Every atom in the universe holds consciousness. It is always with us. We are acknowledging that now because many humans have forgotten, and many humans have been in denial. We act to reawaken our connection to Gaia for the benefit of all living beings. And we acknowledge our connection to all beings. This connection includes all humans, including those who have gone before, our ancestors, and those who are to come, our descendants. All beings who thrive on and in the air. All beings who thrive on and in the water. All beings who thrive on and in the earth. All beings who thrive on and in our bodies. All beings that thrive on light, the beings of the plant realms. All meta beings, including the earth as a living meta being, air as a living meta being, fire as a living meta being, water as a living meta being, all colony beings. Meta beings are collections of solo beings, and this includes murmurations, colonies, schools, hives, pods, flocks, herds, migrations, swarms, and other forms of colony beings, and all other forms of consciousness, known and unknown to us. Having acknowledged all beings, we blend our energies. May all who are part of Mother Earth be connected to and in perfect health, harmony, and balance with each other and with Gaia for the common good. We are in perfect physical health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect emotional health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect relational health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect mental health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect spiritual health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect holonic health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect spatial and temporal health, harmony, and balance. We are in the perfect place, at the perfect time, in the perfect conditions, and with the perfect beings. We set and energize our declarations. We declare that Gaia, Mother Earth, is the ultimate governing principle, the way that humans govern their behavior on this planet, replacing all other forms of human governance. This is the way our behavior aligns with the will of the earth. We declare that humans are colony beings. We deepen and expand our human murmurations, our human harmony. We declare that Gaia, Mother Earth, is providing all necessary resources to achieve the vision of a world that works for all living beings. We declare that we are creating a political and economic system where all beings participate in it. All beings are in relationship with it. All beings own it. All beings benefit from it. And all beings govern it for the common good. We're now going to meditate within this holonic energy within the energy of Mother Earth. We'll be listening for any messages that we may receive. We'll be making any requests that we may have. And we'll be deepening and expanding our human experience of our human murmurations, our human harmony. We'll be doing this for the next 8 to 10 minutes, starting now. Okay, if we can come back to our mutual center, we will conclude our catalyst meditation with our inclusivity mantra. And I would invite you to repeat with or after me as we go along. May I be well. May I be secure. May I be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy. May we be well. May we be secure. May we be happy. And may all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. And so it is, and so it shall be. Thank you for your participation today. And we will switch our gears to discussion mode. We will drink whatever we've got to drink within reason. Unless this turns into another kind of a meditation. We will chat with each other. The way we do that is if you've got if you know how to work your buttons with Zoom, you've got the React set of buttons, and you can raise or lower your digital hand that way. If you can't figure out how to make your digital hands move, you can wave your meat hand around, and when I see it, I will I will recognize you. And I see that Greg has digital hands, meat hands, whatever other hands he's got his microphone hot, which is another way you get recognized here. So I guess I better find out what's going on with Greg.
Oh, good morning. I was spending during the meditation, my mind kept going back to the fact that when we say the words, creating a world that works for all beings, human and other, and practice inclusivity and so on and so forth, they're such abstract ideas. I was thinking about how it might come to pass that each one of us practices, because we're all going to have our own practice. Some of us will be out tending our gardens, and the difference will be that we'll be feeling the plant's energy and feeling the energy we put into them. For other people, it will be going to religious or spiritual convocations and putting the energy out in that space. So for everybody, what we do to accomplish the words that you say is going to be different. And I'm really looking forward to the idea that on the 14th, we will spend a lot of time listening to people, feeling around for what it is that they want to do to practice inclusivity, to create a world that works for all beings, etc. So I was that was the energy of the meditation for me today.
One of the great things for me about the meditation is that when we're sitting there and we're opening ourselves to the consciousness that's more than me. It is me, but it's more than me. We get some really interesting things that come through. So number one, thank you, Greg, for that coming through and you saying something about it. I also would say that we are going to be in our future, um, we're going to be blessed with how we choose to interact with all beings. And we um, um, just this week, I've had two of the people who are on the call talk about their interactions with equines. I've been They're more than horses. And what that has meant for them. Um, and in some instances, it's not just your interaction with this being. It's not me interacting with um, my one radish plant in my in as I keep a radish as a house plant. Why not? Um, and but it's not just that, it's also the ones that will be coming to you that you don't necessarily want. This is this You may be blessed and burdened with all beings and your relationship with all beings. Um, and how do we do that? What is our challenge in doing that? Um, the only way we get through it, as I've been saying over and over, is together. And when you tell me how you handle your spiders, um, and then I tell you how I handle my spiders, then we start working on a way to deal with spiderness. And then the other trillion beings that impact us. Um, um, okay, anybody wanna continue on that theme? Anybody want to go to work now? Bye. Um, I should have said that earlier, that as we know, some of us are on a schedule, and when that we appreciate, and I hope they appreciate that we can do this gathering together, and then go and do something else. Um, um, any other uh, ideas, concepts, chats, etc.? I heard somebody. I didn't. Jenna, yes.
Um, I think Angie wanted to say something.
Oh,
You can go ahead, and then I'll come after. So.
Thank you, Angie. The gist of my meditation this morning was really being in a state of introducing myself and committing to wanting to have relationship and welcoming at any point in time whatever they might offer as understanding or ideas, that sort of thing. Thank you.
oh, thank you. Um, yeah, I mean, like, why? Like, hi, I'm here. Welcome. And well, I'm here to our human family, and I'm also here to our larger Gaian family, the beings of the earth. There may come a time when we are welcoming and honoring beings who are not of the earth, but I'm really focusing us on what's happening right here, because I think a lot of us are passing up and passing over the earth in order to talk to celestial beings or Pleiadians or whoever. And I think we got to deal with what we got right here. This is the deck that the divine has given us. And I think we need to do a good job of that. So yeah, so it's like, hi, I'm here, and what's my role? What do I do? Um, um, so Angie, you are up and on deck.
Well, a number of ideas were floating around my brain as we were meditating this morning, relative to what we spoke of before. And I just thought I'd share a few of those thoughts. I have my garden in, but being that I'm kind of the only person on my property that really interacts with it, there's only so much I can kind of do with it myself. But I thought, well, I could expand the garden more. I could up my garden game more. Because it's not just getting it in, it's, there's the watering, then you start picking things and you got to deal with the harvest, which is lovely, but it takes time, it takes effort. You got to get better at it. And every year I get a little better at it and I do a little more and I get more comfortable with it, and thank God I have a couple of friends that are better at it than I am. I can pick their brains, but I was just kind of looking at what kind of a flow do I need to have to up that more, and there's a number of little things, and some of them I need to somehow engage assistance with. I mean, I have a 10,000 square foot lot. I could grow a lot here, but I'm one person, and there's the water and there's some practical concerns with that, so it just was kind of floating around my brain of, what would I do that? How do you water the garden if the water goes down? I can store enough water for personal use, drinking, hygiene, etc., but not necessarily to water the garden too. So, just some of the little challenges that I don't usually think about were kind of floating around my brain this morning. And, I mean, I have chickens, and they lay well, but they also require a little more food than they can find in the yard. So it's like, okay, how would I keep their dietary needs met if there was a disruption in the food line? So, and it's kind of somehow the approach today allowed me to kind of think about that stuff without it being fearful, so I do really appreciate that very much. And I think that the whole aspect of doing it together and how can we help each other, very much brings that into bear, that, it's, that our networks are really going to get us through. And that's kind of what we really need to be developing now as we can, not just, looking at how can we, I mean, I think that's a very central part of preparation here in that sense is that, to have the people that are like-minded and how can we help each other with all of these things. And that's kind of basically where things are. I mean, that's already moving in my life. So it's kind of nice to see that a lot of these things really are moving and how can we up that some, so that's kind of the things that it was floating around my brain this morning. So, and like I thought, I need to put it in a winter garden. I haven't really done that, but, kale, collards, and cabbage do real well here in the winter. And I haven't really amped that, but I thought you need to amp that, because, in the winter, there's nothing, I mean, like right now, there's nothing in the garden to eat except the plants they're trying to grow. So, it's kind of like there's seasonal things, and we are so far removed from a farm economy that we're having to, I mean, how do you recover that knowledge and the practice of it, so on something that is on a scale that at least will meet your needs and your family's needs and maybe have enough extra that, for the people, too. So those were just kind of some of the things that were floating around. And I think it's really good while things are still at least relatively copacetic in the culture, to really look at that and and address those things. So
Yeah. The short answer, yeah, all that. Little bit longer answer, and actually I better set a timer on this because this could be a longer answer. It's my 4-minute drill here. All that stuff is true. And we are recovering knowledge that's there. The knowledge is there. It may not be in you and it may not be in me, but we have that knowledge. When we sit in the meditation and ask all those beings in the 10,000 square feet, what do you need? What do you want? What are you willing to give? How are you willing to give this? How do we become a family together? All the answers come up. Okay. And we can rest in that. This is like resting in the bosom of Mother Earth. This is taking a deep breath and saying, not, how do I do this? What is, it's not enough. It's like, no, just, it's coming, and it may come from surprising sources. Like, for example, I like gardening. I don't have one. You've seen the little plot that's around my apartment building. It's like I have a chair. I can sit in the chair and I'm sitting on grass, but that's about all that there is. Okay. And so um, I would love to come and help you do whatever you need to do to do what you're doing, whatever you're gardening, whatever that stuff is. Remember, I grew up on concrete, so I know how to grow that. And so and you can pay me with a cabbage, okay? I mean, like, okay, that'll work. And and all of us together can do that together. Now, if I come there like, once a week and do garden stuff, whatever, I I have no idea. Um, um, I get bigger. Okay. I'm sorry. This is why I set a timer because I got one more thing to say. So you're talking about watering. Um, this is the clash of breaker and awakening energy. This happened in India, where there were these villagers at the top of a hill, and they did not have a water supply. And the Indian government wasn't interested in getting them a water supply for a couple of different reasons. Number one, they were small. Number two, they were poor. Number three, they were of an ethnic group that gets marginalized. So it's like, okay, well, good luck. So what they did was they built cisterns, and each of family when it rained, I mean, when the monsoon comes, it rains. And so each family dug a cistern, and so they had water that was available to them year round. Well, the water not only was available to them for drinking, cleaning, cooking, etc., watering their gardens, it also was available. The water seeped out of the cisterns and actually watered the entire area. So all of a sudden, over the course of a year or two, the entire area starts to bloom. There's plants growing everywhere. Instead of it being dusty, dirty, etc., it turned into this garden up there. And when and it didn't diminish the flow of the stream as it was going down further downhill. They didn't block the stream. They just used the water. Down, I think it was Bombay, down in the city where they were having water problems because of mismanagement. They wanted the water of the people up on the hill, so they ordered them to break their cisterns and release that water into the stream, although that would have created absolutely no appreciable increase in the water supply for the people downstream, and it would have devastated the people upstream. But that's what breakers do. That's how breakers think about solving a problem by creating 10 more. Okay, don't get me started. So, what else are we? I'm not seeing any microphones going hot here. Um, what else are we contemplating? Um, um, Jenna, yep.
Hi. I'm not as connected with each of you. I haven't been on as many group sessions as some of you, and I'm curious, where is everybody situated? And when I say situated, I mean not just location, but also the nature of your situation. So for me, I grew up in the Midwest, which is very agricultural, and most of it is chemically based at this point. I shared in the chat before the meditation that there's been a small parcel of farmland in the family since around 1860. And when my mother passed, I received a small parcel I call steward. And so a decade ago, I converted that to organic. And my action rippled out to my brother for his parcel and my cousin for part of his parcel. In a state where there's 27 million acres of farmland, we are like the equivalent of a cell in the body. But our land is organic as a testament to commitment, not as a testament to size and size of business operation. I personally live in the Mid-Atlantic, suburban area between Baltimore and DC, in a townhome community. And so, Angie, I was stunned when you said you had 10,000 square feet. It's just like, wow. I have perhaps 400 or 500 square feet for my tiny garden. And so I do have an organic garden out there in the back. But in reality, it's not going to sustain me throughout 365 days. But I'm still doing it. And so that's what I mean by situated. During today's session, I kept thinking, who do I know on the street that might be a starting place for building community on this street in this townhome suburban area? And I came up with one name, but that's a start. And so I'm curious where the rest of you are, what your situation is. Thank you.
So am I. This is something we have talked about. We on the call have talked about more than a few times. We have not created a mechanism to introduce ourselves to each other. If we took just the amount of time, Jenna, that you took 5 minutes. For the number of people on the call, they were talking about an hour and a half. Okay. Are we ready to do that today? I am not. We talked about, for example, having one person introduce themselves this is for the daily meditation, introduce themselves, but the number changes, the number grows, the number shrinks, and people who may have introduced themselves, 5 months ago aren't on the call anymore. And the so we if anybody has a methodology for doing that introduction, and I'm actually open to using digital methodologies. Maybe just like the goodie box, we can have the 5-minute video box that says when somebody is talking, you can access their background, like, what state are all of you in? I mean, like until you said, Jenna, that you were in the Baltimore, Washington area, I had no idea. And so, and who's next to whom? Who would be interested in connecting with whom? Um, so yeah, it's come up. But I don't have an answer for that.
Thank you
So
for exploring this. And also, I mean, we don't have a formal membership, but perhaps somehow we create something and decide who can access it. And as we grow, it may change, but something that any of us could refer into in the future when there's not a live session, where there may be some people that we don't know what's going on in their lives, where they're not showing up as much as they used to, but are still in the energy field that we're working in.
Yeah, like I said, I'm definitely interested in all of that. I'm watching as people come and stay. Then I'm watching as people come, get something that they need, and then go. I'm watching that people I'm watching the people who don't come, the people I know personally who I've invited multiple times, and oh yeah, I'll go around and I'll get around to that, and they don't show up. Um, um, so we'll work something out. Um, those of us who are in Portland, why did we get together? I forgot why the Swifts or Starlings.
Swifts.
So these birds, swifts, come and they roost in like September or October in a particular chimney. Mark, you're leaving us? Okay, Mark left us. Um, they roost in a particular tree, I'm not particular chimney in Portland, and them showing up is a big deal in Portland. Okay, so I mean, like people come and they did their picnic lunch dinners, and they sit on this hillside and watch these thousands and thousands of birds flying into a chimney, um, and the hawks trying to pick them off and everything else. And we said, we're right here in Portland. Let's use this as an excuse to actually meet each other in 3D meet space. And so we did that. Not one bird shows up.
Right.
Not one. So it was shocking in its non-event. I guess that shows how much holonic consciousness we got with the Swifts. We told them, go somewhere else. There's too many people thinking out there. Anyway, Angie.
Um, well, there was one bird that showed up and he kind of swooped down through us. He sort of
I
like said
remember.
hello, right?
I'm
I'm
not
not
going in
sure
that
what the,
chimney.
right. He said, "Hi, are you guys gone yet?" So
Yeah,
that was funny. Maybe we'll have better
yeah.
timing this year, So
But we'll see. We'll
um,
see.
yeah, just in terms of introducing ourselves, I guess my thought would be maybe each Thursday take one or two people and give them 4 or 5 minutes, because I'd be much more comfortable talking to people than doing a video thing, So that probably wouldn't happen, Um, so I think that might be a way to do it. That way we could kind of get to know each other more. It wouldn't take the whole session. It would take 5 or 10 minutes, and then the question is at right after the meditation or before we end. I don't know, but
Mm.
I think that would be a friendlier way to get to know each other better. And because we have the local networks, and we have the opportunity here to have a country wide bigger network. I mean, depending on, I know you have followers stream in New Zealand and all kinds of different places. So the potential there could be interestingly large. But that's a down the road issue. But I mean, I don't even really know who all on the call lives in Portland, or outliers in the Portland area. I know the daily people. But I think it would be really good to get a better sense of where people live and what their situations are. So
Yeah. So we are hot for that. Number one. Number two, you said you're not good at um, doing videos, but you just did one. uh, so that's all you
but
got to do, and
yeah.
somebody will slice and dice and put it together. And I think that's a really good idea. I think that the idea of trying to get here right now, where there are 10 of us, but we've been as high as 15. Trying to get 15 people to talk at each other at the same time is asking a lot. But saying we're going to spotlight 2 or 3 people per week, um, and have them and collect them into a new kind of goodie box, so that I can I can refer back to that, for when we get people in there. Yeah, I think that is doable. Let me also say, Mark is off the line right now, but the Grand Rapids group is still grouping, and I'm hoping it's going to turn into a node there. I haven't tried to do to kind of pull my international connections together. You mentioned New Zealand, which I think would be an excellent place. We had a very live group in New Zealand for a while. South Africa, I'm feeling could be interesting. Of course, India and Sri Lanka are also interesting places that there's been Commonway activity there, and it'd be nice to see what else can flow there. Um, I was Angie, when you're talking about actually Jenna and Angie, when Angie says I had 400 yeah, 400 acres, 400 square feet. um, And Angie says 10,000 square feet. In um, Argentina, outside of Buenos Aires, a person who has been instrumental for Commonway, and a friend of Double G Greg and I, and I'm trying to remember her name right now. She has a small holding of 10,000 acres. Um, and that's actually a land grant from the king of whoever was running Argentina at the time. And had a really powerful story around that. Um, a, a story about inclusion. And I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. So what is her name? I'm thinking of the name of every other person I know in Argentina except her name. Um, um, and so she and her husband had these 10,000 acres, and most of it's in cattle and in soybeans. When Argentina back in 2000, this is when I went there, um, that's when they hit their first of several economic downturns, and this was a major downturn. I was I was witnessing, I watched as thousands of people were pulling through each other's garbage cans in Buenos Aires trying to find food. Um, that's what happens uh, when the upheavals happen and you act like it wasn't going to happen. When you pretended, oh, this can't happen to me, and then you and your family are at somebody else's garbage can looking for food. Um, anyway, so Juana, Juana, I don't remember her last name now, but Juana and her husband, they're told that there's no market for the soybeans. So all you do is use your tractor and turn under 3,000 acres of soybeans. Of course, you can't sell them. And she says, well, I can give them away, but it's not that simple. It will cost you hundreds or thousands of dollars to harvest them, drive the soybeans into Buenos Aires. All that takes money and takes time, etc. Turn them under. And she said, it's going to cost us some money, but people are hungry and going through garbage cans, and I'm sitting on 3,000 acres of soybeans. So she harvested them, drove them into Buenos Aires, and then found out that nobody knows how to cook a soybean. I Until I went to her farm, I'd never seen a soybean before. So, along with her giving people these bushels of soybeans, she had to print up these little booklets of how to cook and eat soybeans. And it went well. I mean, that like she can be proud that there were thousands of people that were able to eat, um, uh, who would not otherwise um, be able to eat. Um, so we can all have those kinds of stories if we are walking through the world with our eyes open and our hearts open. One more thing about so during the meditation, what came to me was this a saying that people are using now, and I'm watching to see how it flows, and it's called two-eyed seeing. So two-eyed seeing is being able to, as in our language, be able to see with your breaker eye, but also be able to see with your mender eye. Okay, to see with your Western eye, but also see with your indigenous eye, and to get both of these eyes working together. Um, so so I am um I would encourage us to be able to do that. I would encourage us to um be looking for indigenous groups in our area. Um, who's holding the wisdom that's always been there and always associated with the land? And can we talk with them in such a way that all of us become wiser together? Um, so, um, so really good stuff. I never ever know which direction these conversations are taking. So, thanks for having me along for the ride. Let me look at a few of the comments that came through. Um, and then we will start wrapping up. And Jenna, you said this to folks already. A decade ago, I converted small family farm to organic. Yay! Um, and the question, the folks will say it's not economic. And the answer is, of course, it's not economic. It's a whole lot cheaper to spread a whole bunch of poison around, and it's a whole lot cheaper to take out the nutrition in food. It makes economic sense to do that. And that's the only sense it makes. It doesn't make any other sense to do that. Once we start realizing that there's more than just the economic thing, then we can start looking at things differently. You also said consider what is applied to the ground runoff into our water system. Yeah. And uh, that runs off onto somebody else's property. So somebody else's problem. They'll deal with it. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's that is so much. Farmers have been fighting some movement over the last 5 to 10 years of we have POTUS, we have SCOTUS, and we have WOTUS. WOTUS is Waters of the United States. And Congress has been trying to redefine that, and the farmers have been pushing back on it just for that reason. And even my small parcel, there is runoff from adjacent farmers that are Monsanto chemical farmers that comes across my property. So it's the whole scale of the Midwest, from Ohio out to Nebraska, is channeling into the Mississippi and is really instrumental in the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico.
Number one, yes. Number two, I will invite you to think in terms of global water. What the Monsantos of the world do in the United States, at least, is regulated. What happens when it is completely unregulated? Um, some of the horrors in Sri Lanka come from um, most people. There's 20 million people in Sri Lanka, and most of them don't have bathtubs or indoor plumbing at all. You wash up in a well, or you wash up in the canal, or you wash up in a lake. I've taken more than I've taken my fair share of lake baths and canal baths, etc., in with a village, which is really a bathing together is really cool. And learning how you bathe together. I remember being in one body of water, um, and well, you bathe in your sarong, so you hold the sarong in your teeth like a shower curtain, and you are soaping yourself inside the sarong, and then somebody pours buckets of water over your head, and you then drop that sarong, and you have a clean sarong that you use as a towel that dries you off. And then you have a third sarong that you actually put on and dry and wear. Um, all three of these are clean, so you just like wring them out, put them out in the sun, and you do the same thing again tomorrow. Um, but in this particular body of water, on the other side of the canal, there are all these alligators. Okay. I mean, like, and I'm like, wait a minute, do you see that? And they're like, yeah, they've eaten already. I said, has everybody counted their children? So, so the it worked out, okay, but always make sure I kept two or three kids in between me and the alligator. It's like I don't know how fast you got to run from an alligator, but I don't want to find out. Okay. I'm having too much fun here, so let me get a couple more of these comments in. Um, Greg is saying to us, Angie and I both live in Portland, both have chickens, small gardens, and the benefits of urban living. Um, I wonder about chickens. I eat a lot of eggs, and so I would love to have some, but in my apartment block, I don't think that would make me real popular with my neighbors here. Angie owns her property, and I live in a tiny house and pay ground rent to the owner. We call ourselves landmates and share the property. Yep. Um, uh, Joanne says, live in Eugene, Oregon. See, I didn't know that. Have chickens in a garden, part of a friend community that meets on Saturdays, a bit of a conflict. So she's gone. Okay. Um, Part of Angie says part of several spiritually oriented groups and grateful to have them for networking, which could be grown and expanded. This is the idea about the practice. Let's grow these things while you still have telephones, while you still have internet, while you still have gas in a car that can run down the road, so that when these things fall away, you still have the network there. Um, Saxony says, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, has a house with a backyard, no green thumb, uh, 0.2-ish acres is a blank slate. Um, at one point in time, that blank slate was the value. At one point in time, your wealth was determined by how much land you could afford to leave vacant. This is the creation of what gets called a lawn. A lawn has no reproductive purpose other than to say, look at how rich I am. I don't have to grow anything. And some of those lawns in Europe were thousands of acres, and they took hundreds of people to maintain this air of saying, I don't have to grow anything. That's a consciousness that we need to get rid of. Um, so I did a talk um, in Lake Oswego, forget the group. Um, um, and in the talk, I was saying we need to get, back to our roots, etc. And this couple came up after the talk and says, we have a house with substantial acreage around it. And yeah, we can grow some food, and we can be part of this Living Earth, etc. Saw them a couple of years later, and I said, "Hey, how'd the garden go?" And they said, we've had to fight all of our neighbors, the town council, no one wanted the garden or to put a garden in. Everyone said they're ugly. Um, they'll attract rats. They make up all these stories about how they do not want to become part of nature, part of the living fabric of our planet. And um, thankfully, the folks I was dealing with persevered, and that once they became the first ones to put the garden in, now everybody else wants one. Okay, so somebody's got to be the first. Um, and so Jenna says, puts a resource in, find a spring to locate a safe, clean spring to gather water from. I'll be looking at that. Starting this year, water regulations have been rescinded or diluted. Since water regulations started up in the late 1970s, corporations are being given free rein. We need to have the consciousness that says, no, you don't. Okay. Even when our governance systems have been bought and paid for by corporations. Therefore, they think they can do anything they want. Therefore, they can't. Remember, when I talk about all living beings, a corporation is not a living being. They have no right to water. They have no right to anything. They don't they're a legal fiction, and we don't need to be talking about that anymore because I'll be here forever. Okay, so Jen also says in my county, you're not allowed to have chickens unless you own a minimum of 10,000 square feet of land. Angie says you can have 3 hens officially, but you can have as many as you can maintain as long as there's no complaints to animal control. Um, I I don't know how many I could maintain. One thing that with the livestock we have here at the Lloyd Center area, those of you who know Portland, Lloyd Center is the inner city mall, 5 levels of underground parking. The mall is just about dead, and the only thing that's breeding down in the underground parking is rats, and they're becoming more and more numerous and aggressive. Those are my neighbors. Um, you during the day you don't see them at all, and at night you have to watch your step. I mean, you can be stepping on rats. And something's going to have to happen with that. And I'm hoping it happens sooner than later. Oh, they're trying to poison them, and rats are too smart for that. And yeah, we're going to have to work something out here. Okay. Anyone else want to share? No, actually, I'm not going to ask you that because we're way over time. um, I will. Oh, Becky, you jumped in here.
Yeah, this came up during the meditation, and yet we got on the whole gardening thing. So I was hesitating because it's like completely unrelated. When we do the well and secure and happy, I wondered this for a while now. Why happy versus say in harmony, like energetically connected? And so I've just been wondering about.
I'd say 2 answers, maybe 3 or 4 answers to that. Let's just do 2 right now. and I'll think about that some more. Happy does not mean titillated. It doesn't mean entertained. It doesn't mean hee hee ha ha. When Thomas Jefferson talked about the pursuit of happiness, what he meant was the pursuit of fulfillment, that you can live a fulfilled life. The reason that the word has been happy comes from its Buddhist roots. And so that formula is 2,500 years old on the one hand. On the other hand, we can say whatever the heck we feel like saying. So we can say happy and fulfilled. Or we can say fulfilled instead of happy. We I have something else to say, but I would like to think about that for a week before I go any further. So we'll come back to this. So this notion of being fulfilled, the notion that we are on a path that leads to being a fulfilled person, as a part of a fulfilled community, part of a fulfilled species, part of a fulfilled planet, is our goal. And when you look at and I'm thinking of lots of folks from our commander-in-chief on down or up, depending on what direction you look. Wherever we're looking, we see people who are profoundly unwell, profoundly insecure, because they keep looking out there at all those other people for their security rather than developing it themselves. And profoundly unhappy. How can you get to be a multi-billionaire and be so unhappy? How can you be a multi-billionaire? The number of rich people who commit suicide or who die miserable deaths, and it's like, yeah, all that money didn't do you any good. So yeah, so these are the things I think we really want. And if you ask me if I am at ha ha he he happy all the time, no. But if you ask me if I have a fulfilled and fulfilling life, yay. And is it getting more that way? Most of the time, yay. Sometimes that thumb goes a little sideways, but yay. And once we want that for each other, and once we know how to get it for ourselves and therefore don't make others miserable, then I think that we've got something going. Okay. I am recognizing that Greg just turned his microphone on. So I'm going to recognize that, and I'm going to then recognize my own hand as I say goodbye. So
Okay.
Greg.
Thank you. I really resonated with Becky's comment, right? However, what it made me think of is it's a breaker thing to sit around and argue about which is the best word to use in a simple, in a particular case. I go with Sharif. You once loaned me the book The Economics of Happiness, right? And happiness seems to be defined much as the Greek term eudaimonia, which is not just a physical feeling of happiness, but purpose and satisfaction in life. So Anyway, but the thing that I wanted to say is it's good for us every once in a while to have discussions about which word is most appropriate. But I already am swayed by I've been doing it this way for over a decade. I want to keep doing it this way. So may we all be happy until next week.
Indeed, indeed. So blessings to everyone, and looking forward to those of you who want to join us with the daily Catalyst meditation. If you've got the outline, you've got all the links right in there. Um, I will be doing some more thinking about packaging a spotlight video, a spotlight section where each one of us can spend a few minutes talking about who we are and sharing. I am looking forward to next week, if that's the next time I see you, or tomorrow, if that's the next time I see you. One way or another. Thank you. Bye. And I will talk to you later. Bye. See you.